Okay guys, so we're here to discuss on how to start the main engine. So let's go. Let's go.
For various types of main engines on ships, it is important to carry out proper checks, necessary precautions, and maintain parameters for trouble-free operation. Good watchkeeping and maintenance result in higher efficiency, fewer breakdowns, and smooth operation. In this video, we are going to discuss how to start and stop a marine engine and its preparation, and also how to carry out emergency maneuvers on the engine side. Before starting the main engine, the following checks and procedures are to be undertaken. Starting up a ship's main engine might appear as simple, just turn the knob to the desired speed setting, then all of a sudden the engine starts. But in reality, it takes some preparation before we could actually get to the easy part. There are 4 auxiliary systems which are needed in order to start up and operate the ship's main engine. First is the fuel, the lubrication, cooling water, and the start air systems. Even when the ship is docked, the fuel, the lube oil, and cooling water systems are kept running in continuous circulation so that the main engine can be started in a matter of minutes if necessary.
So the engineers will be given an 1-hour notice before the ship's departure to prepare the engine. So the first step is to start an extra generator to ensure that the system has enough electrical power to handle the increased load. Lubrication comes next, which is accomplished by turning the engine with a turning gear. So the turning gear is stopped and disengaged after a few revolutions. The starting air comes next. These engines are commonly started by compressed air stored in large air bottles maintaining a pressure of around 28 to 30 bar. This compressed air is injected into the cylinders, pushing the pistons down to initiate reciprocating motion, which is then converted to rotary motion by the crankshaft. After opening the main valve on the air bottle, open the air control valve on the distributor. During startup, the distributor controls the air injection sequence.
The main engine will be ready to start once all the starting parameters have been met. The bridge is then notified that the main engine is ready for testing. The main engine is switched to standby mode, at which point the auxiliary blowers kick in and the air blowing begins. The injection of compressed air into the cylinders while keeping the indicator open in order to release any moisture or other residues inside the cylinder is known as air blowing. After that, the indicator is closed and the engineers can resume fueling. The engine will first be tested on dead slow ahead and next is dead slow astern, because most ships have engines that are directly coupled to the propeller shaft. Reversing the rotation of the propeller requires the engine to stop first and then reverse its rotation.
When the engineers are satisfied that the engine controls are in good working order, they hand over control to the bridge. The bridge officers will be able to start and stop the engine as needed during maneuvering and gradually increase the ship's speed to prepare it for departure. There is a barge speed range between slow and half that the engine needs to get through as quick as possible. The engine will have heavy vibrations due to the equal frequency of engine pulse and torsional vibration at the critical speed range. The engine will be running at around 50% load at full throttle. At this rate, the ship will be able to build up momentum and be ready to increase speed once it hits open water. At navigation fall, the engine speed can be slowly increased to its normal continuous rating, which is usually around at 7% of maximum continuous rating. At this point, a whistling sound can be heard from the turbocharger which can run at speeds of around 13,000 rpm. Once the desired speed is achieved and the ship has reached open sea, commence of sea passage is declared and maneuvering operations are complete.
After the main engine have been used, we must stop it from running.
Stopping and securing the main engine.
First, after the bridge has given finish with engines, switch the engine control to the engine control room. Check that the auxiliary blowers switch off automatically at finish with engines, if they are in auto mode, or else switch them off manually. Close the starting air valve of the main engine and vent control air system. A good practice is to lock the main starting valve in its lowest position by the means of locking plate. Close the valve for starting air distribution system. Engage the turning gear and check the indicator lamp. Next, after stopping the engine, wait a minimum of 15 minutes before stopping the main engine lube oil pump if work is to be done or undertaken in the crankcase. This prevents overheating of cooled surfaces in the combustion chambers and counteracts the formation of carbon deposits in the piston crowns. Now, keep the engine preheated to a minimum of 15 degrees Celsius or according to the main engine manual requirement. If the engine was operating on HFO or heavy fuel oil, do not stop the fuel oil circulating and supply pumps. If the engine was operating on marine diesel oil or MDO, both the fuel oil, circulating and supply pumps may be stopped. And lastly, switch off any equipment which is not required during the engine standstill period. So that's all are the steps in stopping and securing the main engine.
Procedure for local or emergency maneuvering. The changeover and operating procedure of emergency maneuvering differ from engine to engine. However, the basic procedure for all remains the same. When there is automation or remote control failure alarm, changeover of control is to be done from remote to local control stand. The local control stand is usually located in the engine room near the fuel pump platform in the main engine.
So let's move on to the changeover procedure. So in the changeover procedure can be done with the engine and stop as well as running condition. But if the situation permits, it is better to be done with the engine is stop. The next procedure is first change control from wheel house to ECR and ensure both the telegrams on wheel house and ECR are in stopped position. Then bring the fuel lever of wheel house and ECR in stop position. And lastly, a changeover switch is provided in the ECR operated the switch from ECR to local.
Go to the local control station and change over the fuel pump. Control shaft local to manual. A cone clutch arrangement or a mechanical lever arrangement may be provided depending upon the engine type, which acts as manual control when attached to hand wheel for operating fuel rack. A locking pin or dip may be provided for the above arrangement as an additional safety so that it does not come out in normal operation.
Operating procedure. After the fuel rack is attached to the manual hand wheel control, wait for the wheelhouse order. Respond to the telegraph and give fuel and air to the engine via local levers. If the engine fails to start, give extra amount of fuel and air. As now, it is controlled manually and the linkage requires more push for the fuel supply. Once the marine engine starts, follow the telegraph and maintain the speed from the local fuel lever.
Check and maintenance. The remote control failure alarm is to be checked regularly. Local telephone and communication system are also to be checked and maintained. Local telegraph bell and indication light are also to be checked and maintained. All the linkages to be oiled and greased at regular intervals of time. The safety clips or pins in the cone clutch or any other type of arrangements is to be checked. Emergency maneuvering drill should be conducted every month.